I see volatility everywhere. I see volatility in crypto. But if you dig a little deeper, there is some outperformance there.
It's really interesting to watch how the last couple of months have gone, because even though there are a lot of folks in the market that are worried that crypto will break again below that 17,500 mark, you still have the last quarter since the end of June, crypto doing pretty well overall. So if you look at a specific index that we look at, and this is an index of 100 digital currencies tracked by Bloomberg, you're looking at the MDIS Crypto Compared Digital Assets 100 index. It has added almost 7% since then. That is pretty close to its second performer there, that is the dollar, at about 8%. The S&P 500 and gold even has fallen in that time. So you're not looking at, of course, all of those classic risk havens performing all that well here. Now, there's some interesting questions here about whether that will continue on. Of course, crypto has fallen pretty meaningfully this year. I don't want to make 3 months a trend,
right,
but it certainly is something that has not fallen below that lower bound that we saw earlier this year, and in the last 3 months at least has been a pretty strong performance.
Yeah, not a trend necessarily, but we are looking for sort of the direction of travel. Sam Bankman-Fried, somebody that you know well, has been tweeting. I think we can bring it up here. Boy, with the world thinking differently about crypto price moves, they measured, I think he means, they measured it versus world currency baskets instead of just the US dollar.
And I think that's a great point that he made, because of over the weekend, when you saw these massive fluctuations in currencies across the world, you had the crypto crowd stand up and say, what does this mean for cryptocurrencies? And if you work in or live in a country where assets, digital assets, can be less volatile than your actual currency, you have people, for example, in Argentina that have flocked to digital assets in a very meaningful way, even El Salvador, even with that volatility. Then what does the digital asset mean? It means a lot more than if you're living in a much more stable nation.
There are still some dissenting voices, some of them louder than others. I'm thinking, of course, of Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan. What did he have to say recently about Bitcoin in particular?
Yes, of course, if you're looking in the traditional finance world, TradeFi, you are looking at Bitcoin as a decentralized Ponzi scheme, is what Jamie Dimon told regulators and lawmakers last week. However, let's think about what crypto has done and what it looks like. I wanted to point this out just as an exercise here, Ed. We had tips, inflation-protected bonds up. Why does that matter here? In the sake of crypto, crypto has long been, pitched as an inflation hedge. And I want to say, for the people who even say that that as an inflation hedge has fallen apart, so has TIPS, which are inflation-protected bonds, which was a hedge fund favorite this year. So you do see both traditional finance and DeFi hitting a little bit of, a roadblock here in the narrative in terms of what crypto means for many people.
Hey, very quick, we just had the merge. What's the next kind of calendar event that the crypto world looks to?
Yeah, well, it's funny that you mentioned the merge, because Ethereum was a big part of that outperformance in that index in the last 3 months. But again, does that continue on, and to what extent does that filter into other assets? Do you see that same love in other proof-of-stake networks, things like Solana and the NFT world? As we know, there are a lot of interesting things happening when you look at the ape community, for example, and we've talked about it here, the Moonbirds as well. So again, the tangential assets to Ethereum we're looking at.